hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name's Michelle, and who's here with me?
It's Stefano. No, it's JD. I don't even know where I went. I was just like suddenly I was like, "Oh, I'm going to try this thing and just say a different name," and that's the name that popped into mind. I have no idea why.
Okay. Well, hello Stefano. Thank you so much for joining in place of JD. I'm sure you will be a much better host than him.
Absolutely.
Zing. Okay. Hello. If this is your first time tuning in to We Watch Shudder, hi, hello, welcome.
What took you so long?
They were a very small podcast. That's what took them so long. We are hard to find. If you don't know what Shudder is, it's basically a movie streaming platform that is purely horror and horror adjacent. We are horror nerds. We are horror whores. So we are all for just give me all the horror. I will gobble that right up. So we record episodes about every exclusive and original movie that Shudder puts out because we're going to watch them anyway. We may as well talk about them. Right, Stefano?
Right. I mean, who in the world doesn't want to listen to a couple of white folks from Fargo, North Dakota talk about horror movies? As it turns out, just about everybody. Fewer people every day, and that's the important part.
Yeah, I like to start famous and then slowly drift into obscurity. I feel like that's harder.
What I'm saying is fewer. There are fewer people every day who aren't interested in us.
That's too much math. Too much math in my head.
It's like a triple. It's like a triple negative. I know. I'm sorry.
Okay. Whoa. No. Okay. Anyway, let's move on because I think you broke my brain, and I can't function right now. Okay.
Oh, broken brains. Yeah.
A Wounded Fawn. That's the movie that we're talking about today. It just came out. It's from Travis Stevens, who's the director. Do you want to read the description?
Yeah,
or
I'll give
I?
this one a read today.
Okay.
A wounded fawn. Meredith Tanning, a local museum curator, is dipping her toe back into the dating pool, only to be targeted by a charming serial killer. When a fateful romantic getaway between the two becomes a tense game of cat and mouse, both must confront the madness within him. A Shudder original. Michelle.
Yeah.
Hit us with them spoiler-free thoughts about A Wounded Fawn.
Mm-hmm. I went back and forth on this one a lot, which I tend to do with some of these where I'm not positive if I like it, but I think I am ultimately landing on the side of I like it. Part of the thing is that this pays homage to some older style movies, probably like 70s and Giallo and that kind of era. And I usually don't like that style of movie, but it does it so well that I like this more than the movies that it is paying homage to. There's a lot of stuff that we'll get into. It did take me a little bit to figure out how I felt about it, but I will come down on a 3.25 skull rating out of 5.
3.25 skulls for Michelle on A Wounded Fawn. Let's find out if this is a surprise to Michelle. I fucking love this movie.
I knew you would.
This was a trip. It's all shot on 16 millimeter, which I love. I wish more people would make movies on 16 millimeter. It's pretty much the only good thing about the Scary of 61st, except for that one scene where there's that thing on the screen that just doesn't go away for several minutes, like Michelle was talking about. Anyway, this is a visually awesome movie. It's stylish and interesting and cool. It plays in two parts, so it's actually almost like it's almost like a two-part anthology or like two shorter films that happen to work together. This movie is so fun. There are a couple of small things about it that prevent me from going the full 5 skulls for my personal take on this one, but I'm going down a 4.5.
Nice. 4.5 from Stefano, a.k.a. JD. 3.25 from me.
That's Stefano.
Stefano. Stephen O. That comes out to 3.875 skulls out of 5. I am not surprised at all. I knew you were going to be somewhere around the 4 to 5 range, because JD loves 70s horror. I don't. That's just a thing, and I can't get over it, and I tried. Okay, let's get into spoiler territory. If you don't want this movie to be spoiled, just don't listen to the next part right now. Go watch the movie and then come back. It's easy. Right. Straightforward. Do that.
Easy
right
peasy lemon squeezy.
Right now.
Yes. All right. Okay. Michelle, do you want to go first or should I?
I think I'll go first because I imagine that you probably have a lot of things to talk about. And
I got a few, yeah.
Yeah. I kind of want to give just a broad overview on this because, like I said, it's not the style of movie that I really like. I'm not a fan of 70s horror. It's hard for me to get past that hurdle entirely. But this movie does what it's trying to do so well that I can't really fault it. It's it's perfect for what it's trying to accomplish. It uses 16 millimeter film. The acting is great. There's some beautiful shots in here. The sound design is great. There's a lot going on that works. It's just not my thing. And I was like, oh, I wanted something else, but I can't fault this for what it is.
When you say you wanted something else, tell me a little bit more about that. Like, were there parts of this where, you were like, okay, if it does this or it goes in this direction, I could see myself, what would you have done differently with this, or what were you looking for?
I mean, I would want an entirely different film. It's just not
wow.
No, it's not my thing. It's that, the slasher kind of stuff, the weird colored blood, which I know why they did it, but just seeing deliberately bad props and makeup and things, I'm like, you are trying to do it this way because I know exactly what you're doing, so I can't fault you for it. But that blood is very bright.
Well, okay, so the bright red Giallo Dario Argento blood, that I get. What else in this did you think looked because I thought overall the effects in this were really great. I thought all the various ripping and tearing of flesh when that lady was sitting on the fire pit and it was burning her ass.
That was the one part that,
whoa,
yeah.
Yeah.
But all the stabbing is very clearly prosthetic flesh. It's very deliberately, they're not trying to be realistic with it.
Right.
So it's that kind of, it's the style. Okay. And I don't fault it for that. But let's say they had done this exact same movie, but it was ghosts. I'd be like, cool, I'm on board. I'm just not a slasher, weird, psychotropic trip. And I'm trying to open my horizons. If this had been a year ago before we started the podcast, I probably would have been like, wow, I hated that, but I'm learning to appreciate movies. And I watched it, and I even watched the last half hour twice because I was like, what did I just see? And it's done so well. I can't fault it. It's just not my thing.
How, because, look, we all know at this point how you feel about the man. Just speaking strictly in terms of Josh Ruben, how did you feel about this movie?
He's my bae. I love Josh Ruben. That did not influence my score. I was like, set aside your weird crush on Josh Ruben and try to look at this objectively. I know, he's just so brilliant. I love that I have found this man on Shudder and that we get to keep watching him in things.
Yeah.
He's great.
So no, that's all perfectly fair. We've certainly had our share of movies where I've had that same reaction. I can't fault it in any way. It's definitely, it seems like a good example of what it is. It's just not my flavor, as I like to say. So I get that. From my perspective, first of all, from a stylistic angle, like I said, being shot on 16, that 16 millimeter grain, there's just there's a slight surrealness to that's just built in with that 16 millimeter grain that I really appreciate. but also just throughout this movie, very clearly a lot of thought put into the composition of shots and the cinematography. One of the first shots that really jumped out to me in the movie was when we first meet Meredith, when she's in that room with her therapist, and they have the angle shots on each of the speaking characters, but then they have that full scene shot where it's like a wide open frame with a lot of room in between them. Just some very carefully thought out, and like somebody didn't just say, okay, just set the camera up over there somewhere and shoot it this way. Like, they really took some, and I love that sort of thing, that sort of detail work. But then, yeah, like, this is, like I said, this is basically like 2 movies in one, right? You get Act 1 and, like, the prologue and Act 1 that are this real sort of Alfred Hitchcock cat and mouse slasher giallo type thing, where we know from the get-go, after the prologue, that this is the bad guy, and Meredith doesn't know. So now it's like we're just waiting to see how this goes, and they do some really great things there. One of my favorite parts about the first section that I loved is, so they're driving out to the cabin, right? And she asks him if they can stop so she can use the bathroom. And he's like, "Oh, do we have to? We're so close. Can we just keep going?" And she's like, "Oh, that's a little weird." And what I love is, the first thing I love about this is then as they drive by that place where she wanted to stop, they get that shot of all the flapping red flags in the wind.
Yep, I caught the symbolism too.
So obvious, but so clever. But then they keep driving, and then it's like dark, right? It goes from day to dark. So either they were right on the cusp of like dusk and sundown, or he was lying about how close they were. And then they finally get to the cabin, and they're talking, and never once, I'm just like, when is she going to go to the bathroom? When does she, and then finally they get to the part where he's like, "Do you have any other questions?" And she's like, "Yeah, where's your bathroom?" And I was like, you fuckers, you got me. Well done. I really enjoyed that. Just the dynamic back and forth between the two of them in that segment I really liked. The moment of reveal where she finds out really what's going on, and then the chase begins. It all played out fantastically, and then the second half of this movie is like, what the fuck? Like, it just goes bonkers. I took a few notes while I was watching this. A couple of my biggest reactions to this, things that I loved. One of my very first note on this film is, "Whoa, what the fuck is that weapon?" Because that first kill, it happens very weirdly. It's very it happens from behind, and then you just see him, and he's got this thing like clenched into her neck, and then she's got these huge gouges, and then you find out, oh, it's a fucking meat claw. Holy shit, that is savage. What the fuck? I have never seen that's new to me. If that's ever been done in a horror movie before, I don't know about it. Please tell us if it's happened. But I was like, oh, that's fucking vicious. And then also in that first prologue, there's the scene where they're shooting him from behind after the kill. And I genuinely wasn't sure. Is he jerking off right now?
I have a comment on that.
There's the next one where it's like, oh yeah, he's definitely jerking off. And then I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just gotta say, if you didn't know he was a bad guy by that point, I think anybody who jerks off into a kitchen sink is automatically evil. I am paranoid.
Whether he's murdered anybody in advance or not.
Doesn't matter. That's definitely where I was like, okay, this guy is not misunderstood. He's a bad guy. I'm paranoid about salmonella in my kitchen. I can't even imagine the amount of bleaching I would have to do of that sink. It's just impractical. It's not like there weren't other places that he could go masturbate and not ruin the place where he creates his dinners at. I was so mad about it. Okay, proceed.
No, that's fine. I get you. And so, yeah, I loved how that all played out. I thought that very first moment where she, like the one first jump scare where she closes the trunk lid and you see that flash of a face, that fucking just blew my hair back. Just throughout that first section, really, really effective. The second part of this movie, I don't even want to go into any detail about, except to tell you it's one of the craziest psychedelic, what the fuck is happening freak show sequences of events I've seen in recent memory, maybe of all time. It's fucking wild. But this is where I want to get to the bits where it did kind of, there were moments that didn't quite work for me. So like we get there and he has gouged the fuck out of her throat, right? And Meredith is bleeding out. There's a lot of blood here. But she's not dead. And I was like, wait a minute. Okay, she's not dead. And she clobbers the fuck out of him with that sculpture, which, by the way, incredible effects, incredible makeup on his eye and the way she fucked up his face. And then they get you that close-up on the fucking chunked out part of his skull. And it's like, oh, fuck. Oh, very visceral. But from that point forward, my actual note here, because like she pounds his head in and then it blacks out, and then they come into the bright light where he's talking about basking and whatnot. And my immediate reaction was, wait, are they both dead now? And literally what I started thinking is this like supposed to be his like moment of death, DMT hallucination, descent into hell, rooted in his guilt over everything he's done? Like, are we literally watching his moment of death experience there? Is that what this is supposed to be? Because that'd be pretty cool. And I was coming along with it. And where this movie loses me is literally the final, I guess not quite the final shot, because there's that whole credits thing. But
I got to comment on that.
the final moment where it finally jumps out of that hallucinatory realm, and Meredith is still there, and she's still alive. And that, just from a narrative perspective, is much like, that's part of why I asked like earlier, like what specifically were you expecting? And I don't know that I'm upset specifically because it didn't turn out to be what I thought it was, that they were both dead. But there was something a little unsatisfying about that just being revealed out of nowhere that didn't quite work for me. And you know, kudos to them for a fantastic film, and I'm sure it's going to work fine for other people, and a 4.5 is nothing to sneeze at whatsoever. But literally, like that one moment was enough for me to just go like, oh, okay. But other than that, I fucking loved everything about this movie. Yeah. That credits shot was wild.
I had the exact same reaction, because the way that they snap you into it is her saying, I think go fuck yourself to him, or something along those lines. And that's how you snap back to reality. And I'm like, I know it's kind of like a comedic line, but it was very unsatisfying to find out like, oh, I don't need to wonder whether this was all in his head. I guess it was real, but it is weird. Or like the part of her being alive anyway. I mean,
right.
Like she was alive.
I feel like the implication then is supposed to be that like something was definitely happening to him, but what we were seeing was his sort of hallucinatory perspective on it. But then at that point, now I start asking myself, okay, well then what is it that was actually happening? Because like say they had done like an alternating like reality and weirdness kind of thing, I would get that. But yeah, it just like I don't know exactly what they were trying to do there. It definitely, to be honest, it felt a little to me like they just wanted her to survive. And I don't have a problem with the idea of her surviving. It's just at that point, to be totally honest, for no other reason really than he ripped the fuck out of her throat, and she lost a lot of fucking blood, and she's just got like some rags and duct tape around her neck, and she's fine. I just like it may seem like an insane nitpick, but that's what I do. So
no, I had the exact same problem where I was having a hard time figuring out what was real versus what was not, and how is she still alive, unless part of his delusion started with thinking that he hurt her more than he did, but that feels like a stretch. So yeah, there was definitely something unsatisfying about that, but then there was something very satisfying about those credits. Usually if you say my favorite part of the movie was when it was over, it's an insult, but no, my favorite part of this movie was when it was over. I watched the credit scene twice. I was laughing so hard.
It's interesting actually. Obviously in a totally different spirit and idea, but very not dissimilar from the credits shot from Pearl, right? Where it's just a very long, drawn out, kind of ultimately really uncomfortable shot. Except in that one it's like cringy, and in this one they make it just like there are so many moments where you feel like he's almost done, and then no, back to the throat, back to the throat. He just laid there and mutilated himself on camera for several minutes. You gotta appreciate that. Here's the part that I want to know: how did Sarah Lynn just stand there and not break? Like, I have to believe she was chuckling because we can't see her face, but the fact that she's able to stand so still and not just guffaw and lose her shit because he was going for it.
Yeah, I would have had a hard time. I would have put like earplugs in and closed my eyes and just be like, I can't see what he's doing, so I can't react to it. One of the things about this movie that I did really enjoy and prevented me from fully disliking it is that it did get under my skin in a way that a lot of movies don't. Particularly the reveal of the owl made me so uncomfortable.
Oh, when they take the owl mask off and you see what's underneath that? What the fuck was that even supposed to be?
All of that just like, it made me so physically uncomfortable that I was like,
a trip.
Yeah, it solidified like, okay, this is gonna get a good score. I just don't like the subgenre that it's doing, but this is well done.
Yeah. This was man, a fantastic start to December. We got just a few more left for the rest of the year. I think we would both say check out A Wounded Fawn. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say if you like Giallo and Argento style movies, then you're going to like this because it does really pay homage. I wish I could come up with a different word other than pay homage because I feel like I said it 5 times.
Right. Especially for the first half of the movie, it definitely has a lot of those influences. The second half of the movie, I don't even really know what you could say was an influence on the second half of this. Maybe
drugs.
Drugs. Like
if you're
drugs. Maybe like little bits, I guess you could say, of like, I don't know, maybe some Jodorowsky, maybe some Coffin Joe stuff in there. Like This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse. Is that what that movie is called? Have you seen those Coffin Joe movies, Michelle?
Nothing you said was a word that I registered.
Why am I not surprised? It's okay. It's Coffin Joe. Go look it up. You may. But no, I just.
He probably just needs a lozenge, and that'll stop his coffin.
No. Oh God.
He should probably see a doctor if he's coughing so much it's part of his name.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. This has been another wonderful episode of
Merry Christmas.
Oh, we got some weeks yet. Guys, please make sure, if you don't already, check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and other places, I think. I don't know. It's at We Watch Shudder wherever you go. And also, hey, good news. We finally have secured and connected to our official website, WeWatchShudder.com. You can go check out our website there, and you can email us directly now at mail@WeWatchShudder.com. If you ever just want to shoot the... What?
Can our website have a blog?
I'm pretty sure it can.
Oh my God.
I'm pretty sure
I'm
it
going to
can.
put blogs on the website.
Blog. wall.
Yep,
I don't know what just
exactly.
happened there. That was really weird. But no, check all that stuff out, guys. Make sure you tell all your friends about us. Also, just want to let you guys know if you did have any minor technical issues with the podcast here over the last few days, we have recently migrated from the Spreaker platform to Podbean. But everything seems to be finally completed, and we shouldn't have any issues going forward. If you do have any trouble, please use that handy new mail@wewatchshudder.com email address or any of those @WeWatchShudder social medias to let us know.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. I do want to say that I'm upset that this movie did not start with the Shudder dun 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 dun. It had a different sound, and I was very upset about it, and I will never forgive them.
Michelle.
Yeah.
What's next week, Michelle?
Next week is Christmas Bloody Christmas.
Christmas Bloody Christmas, courtesy
But
of
first
Joe Bagos.
We have a bonus episode coming out on Monday.
We
that
do.
Is,
we have another one of those. Which one are we doing this Monday, Michelle?
Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched.
Wow, that was a particularly...
It's 3 hours.
it's Michelle, it's 3 hours and 20 minutes. let's not cut it any slack
it is
here.
Longer.
But
yeah,
we're going to be talking about that. We'll also probably, because this is a documentary episode, we'll probably also add in just some chat about like specifically some of our personal favorite folk horror type movies and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's coming out on Monday. We got Christmas Bloody Christmas coming out, I believe, on Friday. It's going to be a good time. Thank you guys so much for being here with us yet again. Let's say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.